Gangi. Welcome to another episode of On the Line. All right, guys, today we're going to talk about how we don't want emotions to get the best of us when we're doing our job. We want to always be effective. And the last thing we want is for our frustrations to limit our ability to be effective, to basically cloud us to the point where we're not making logical decisions. We're just frustrated. We become disenfranchised. And I think, again, I have a great guest on, Connie Alleyne. Connie, I know that in your time in corrections, I know you're smiling now, but there were times where you've been frustrated, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's times where you've got the inmate writing, you've got, the supervisors asking for things, you've got central office pulling at you, you've got the warden coming to you for whatever, you got the captain saying, hey, what's going on here? The reality is that you've got to be able to pull yourself together, right? There's a way that you have to keep yourself grounded. Sometimes it's just a matter of triaging those requests to make sure you're dealing with what's most important, you're giving it your all, and that ultimately you don't leave yourself uncovered, right? So that simply just means, even though through all the frustration, you have to make sure that you are dotting your I's and crossing your T's. That's just the reality.
Yeah, I think when it comes to frustration, a lot of us just wind up giving up. And in this profession, we can't allow that to happen. In this profession, we have to be effective 150% worth. We cannot give this job anything less than that. And the moment we become frustrated is the moment we start kind of cutting corners because we stop caring. And sometimes it makes sense. I mean, for the most part, let's say for custody is going to write charges, and we all know all those charges, sometimes they don't stick. Now, whatever the reason could be, sometimes you have a lenient disciplinary hearing officer. Sometimes we're not doing our due diligence. Sometimes there could be a due process error, whatever the case may be. But the problem is we don't want to take those charges personally to the point where we stop writing charges. That's the key. I mean, we can follow up why those charges aren't sticking, make it constructive. Hey, I noticed I wrote a charge. The inmate beat it. Can you tell me what I did wrong? Make it constructive, not personal. I know for a fact that some inmates, when they find out they beat a charge, some of them will go back to the officer and push like, hey, remember that charge you wrote me? I beat it. Because for them, it's a win-loss. For us, it's not a win-loss. For us, we're doing our job. We can't take it personal. And at the end of the day, inmates are going to beat charges. We still have to keep writing them. I know a lot of people that will get so frustrated that they'll stop writing the charges. What's the sense, Gangi? What's the sense? They're going to beat it anyway. Well, the sense is to document, to still make it difficult. At the end of the day, maybe that's what the inmate wants. Maybe the inmate wants to get you frustrated to the point where you're not doing your job. So when the inmate does cross the line, you turn around and say, well, I'm not going to bother writing you because at the end of the day, you're going to beat it anyway. Who wins that? The inmate's going to win that. I mean, Connie, I'm sure that you've seen it where frustration has gotten people to the point where they just stop trying to be effective in what they do.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I don't even think that they're trying to stop being effective. I think sometimes it's just they are so stretched thin mentally that they don't even have the extra fuel needed to go the extra mile. And like, as much as we can understand that, our reality is that if it's not documented, it didn't happen. Our reality is that these are legally binding documents. And if in fact we aren't writing charges, if in fact we aren't documenting the way we're supposed to be documenting, we have to understand that we are now taking away the element of creating a history. When we can create a behavioral history, even if this time around the inmate does beat a charge, the next time, maybe it now shows a pattern, and that pattern can help for the charges to stick in the future. I mean, we've seen it especially on like the medical and mental health side of the house, where we are doing our best to provide support to the inmates, and we know they're malingering. But the moment that the clinical social worker decides that they're not going to document this erroneous request, right? Or they're like, whatever. No. So now we could say this person has written us 20 times. Here are all of the times that we've engaged. Here's all the things, and here are the outcomes. That's the way we establish our case to say it's okay for us to remove this person from mental health, right? Like, it's those kind of things that I think we don't want to lose sight of, but it does wear us down. And I think that when you start feeling the burnout, when you start feeling the wear down, that maybe that's when you need to tap into your supervisor and be like, hey, listen, I need some support.
Yeah, I think it's all about the perspective. I mean, are you seeing this as a win-loss? Like, yes, the inmates are going to play their game of chess. We cannot play checkers against chess. We'll lose every time. But having said that, there's ways that we can have control within the predictability of our job. And sometimes we get frustrated because at the end of the day, there's these policies and procedures that, inmates know how to take advantage of, and then we become the pawns. Staff becomes the pawn to that. So what we have to do is we have to find a way to regain that level of control. And I think most of the part that gets frustrating is the fact that we feel as staff that we're losing that level of control, that we're losing that sense of control, and we're kind of becoming puppets. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm writing the charge, but they're not going to stick anyway. Or, yeah, the inmate's going to say this 20 times and I have to respond 21 times. Yeah, unfortunately, there's a level to the game. But like Connie said, when you don't respond, or when you don't do your job, or when you don't document, even if you know that they're going to beat the charge. I know, guys, it's tough. But having said that, there's a history that's being created there that may be able to be utilized later on. But put that, like, if you're deciding, well, this inmate's acting foolish, I'm not going to write a charge. The reason why you want to write the charge is let that fall under disciplinary hearing officer. Let them, explain why the inmate keeps beating the charge. At the end of the day, you're still doing your job, because one day when there's a charge that you should have wrote, and then you're like, well, screw it, I'm not going to write. The inmate's going to beat it anyway. They're going to come at you, and they're not going to care about the 20 million times the inmate beat the charge. All they're going to care about is right now. Why didn't you write it right now? And that's, frustrated or not, it's not going to be a good justification when the write-up shit was necessary. And at this point now, you're going to be facing charges for not doing your job. Hey, Connie, would you like to say anything in closing?
I would just like to say, just whatever you do, don't give up on yourself, right? Your documentation is you covering yourself. That's your documentation to make sure that there is support, that you actually did your job when an incident or an event happened. And at the end of the day, if you don't cover yourself, no one else will. That's just what it is.
And Connie, I think you said it perfect about not giving up on yourself. Hey, guys, if you find out that you're frustrated, ask yourself, first off, have the insight to know you're frustrated. I mean, that's sometimes hard to recognize. Find out why you're frustrated and find out if it's actually affecting your job. I mean, are you not doing what you're supposed to be? Are you not doing what's supposed to be done because you're frustrated? Am I not writing charges because I'm frustrated because the inmates are beating them? Yeah, okay, but is that a good enough justification when you should write a charge? We should document. And it's a great conversation because I know right now we're battling our emotions, a lot of stuff going on in corrections. So to be able to understand how those emotions affect you and the decisions you have to make is key to surviving in this profession. As always, guys, the show is on the line. Stay safe.